Hello, welcome to Kedrick Farms. I'm going to be sharing some tips aimed mostly at new players and contractors based on my own personal experience playing Farm Sim Network for about 50 days now. Of that 50 days, I've spent about 30 as a farm manager. My first tip is also a bit of a rant. Don't be lazy. I can't count the number of times I've seen people frustrated on Discord, complaining about something, having a really difficult time for something that's already been explained in a tutorial on the wiki, in a Discord post. And so take the time and look at the materials that are available to you. The biggest source of explanation that's available to you, in my opinion, is the tutorials that Ruby Juice has done on his YouTube channel. And so if you head on over to Ruby Juice's channel, and there'll be a link in the description below to get to his channel, he's got a playlist with all the FSN content that he's put together. And if we go and look at that playlist, you can see that he's got 18 different tutorials here, and there's a lot of really great content here that I recommend everybody watch. Even as somebody who's played FSN for a couple of months now, I still go back and refer to some of these tutorials when I'm trying to do something that I haven't done in a while. The other great resource available to you is the wiki. I strongly recommend reading through the wiki, not only because there's a lot of good content here, but really it's a requirement for playing FSN. A lot of the rules and different things that you're expected to know and understand are all listed out here in the wiki. This is something that I believe is getting updated infrequently at the moment, but more updates are coming soon. Lastly, make sure you're checking all of the Discord announcements. The announcements channel specifically has a lot of great content, and Hans tends to post in this channel a couple of times a day. There's also specific channels for updates that are happening to the website, updates that are happening to the servers themselves, and as always, you've got your questions channel where people can ask questions and get feedback in real time. I really view the questions channel as kind of a last resort. If you're unable to find your answer through one of the other means, go ahead and ask a question. Just don't use it as your first go-to, because it can be frustrating to the players who are trying to assist and help people out if you're asking something that there's already documentation for. My next tip is to build relationships with the other members of the FSN. At its core, FSN is a multiplayer experience. And a lot of the work that you're going to do as a new player, as a contractor, is working for the farm managers in the game. And the best way to get steady, reliable work is to build a rapport with the farm manager that you're working with, show them that you're a reliable, responsible contractor, then they're more than likely going to want to work with you again. And a lot of that comes from just having good communication with the other players. Be active on Discord. Don't be afraid to, chat it up. Try to keep conversations in the lobby to FSN. There's some chit chat and off topic type channels, but just be present on Discord. If you're on the server doing a contract, interact with the other people on the server. Toss a hello out when you join. Ask people what they're doing. Just generally interact. Hang out in the audio channels. There's a bunch of audio channels on Discord. Some of the best times I've had is just sitting in the Discord channels late at night, hanging out with some of the other players and having a good conversation. My third tip is to be patient, and most importantly, be polite. A lot of the activities in Farm Sim Network require staff or another player to interact with you in order to get something done. Customs contracts come to mind. In order to sell things to the global market, another player has to come in and audit that what you have in the silo is what's going to get sold, or how many bales you have matches what you put into the website. And, there's just a lot of different things that takes time. Somebody has to log onto the server. Maybe there's a queue of tickets or contracts. And so, a little bit of patience goes a long way. And, a lot of times you're in a rush, you're trying to beat the clock. But at the end of the day, you've got to be polite when you're interacting with people. The general guideline on timing for most actions are that it'll be completed sometime within the next 24 to 72 hours. In my experience, almost everything gets done in less than a day. And so I find that a lot of players are in a rush to do things. They don't plan ahead far enough, and they're trying to get a piece of equipment on the server or do something in the next 3 hours. And, it's just not realistic to expect that the staff is going to be available at the drop of a hat to get something done. Again, the expectation is 24 to 72 hours. The fact that almost everything that I've seen and interacted with in the 2 months that I've been on the server gets done in under a day, leaves me feeling really grateful. And so, my reminder to new players, especially, if you're looking to be around on the FSN for a long time, is, be patient, be polite. These are real people on the other end of the keyboard here. So, it's in your best interest to really treat people with respect. If you're still in pre-whitelist, waiting to get into the game, hang in there. It is definitely worth the wait. And I guarantee that if you're someone that stands out in a positive way, you're patient, you're polite, you're active on Discord, you're going through the tutorials and the wiki and doing your pre-whitelist checklists and those kinds of things, that you're going to get in, you're going to get noticed. Just hang in there. FSN is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't be in a rush to get to Farm Manager. I did, and I definitely regret it. I was with FSN for about 3 weeks, but I had honestly not been super active for my first couple of weeks, and I jumped right into Farm Manager, made the donation so that I could fast track that, and I got there too fast. I wish I'd learn more about the game, learn more about the various mechanics of the website. I wish I'd built up more money before I jumped in. Being a farm manager is expensive. On top of just the normal things that you expect from playing the game, buying equipment, maintenance, seed for fuel, that kind of stuff. There's income tax, property taxes. On your property, you've got to buy permits to place buildings or animal pens. You might need to hire workers to get things done because everything is in seasons and it's real time. And so there's just a lot of complexity there. There's a lot of extra costs there to bring that added realism to the game. And that extra cost, that extra complexity is something that you need to spend some time and learn how to do. And so, my big tip, if you're a new player, you're a contractor, is don't rush to Farm Manager. I'll be doing another video here shortly about my tips for farm managers and people that are new to that, because there's just a lot of things there that I wish I'd waited until I jumped into Farm Manager. Number 5, understand the financial aspects of the game. This is one of those areas I'm talking about, the complexity of FSN. This is what makes it so engaging and interesting, at least for me. But there's some gotchas or pitfalls that you have to watch out for. And, really it's understanding how money flows from the actual game where you're playing on the server on your farm to the funds that you have in the web site that you can use to interact with the FSN side of the game, where you can buy equipment from player dealers, you can buy and sell things on the global market, you can get stocks, you can hire contractors and all of those things. And really that website is broke into, the core web part, and then there's a concept of a meta account. And so this is an area where you can't spend too much time. And actually Ruby Juice just came out with a video about this, which I recommend watching. But, if we jump into FSN here and look at, this is my finance page, there's a lot of things, over here on the left-hand side that are going to interact with my web account. I get invoiced for from a worker that has done some work, or, I have to pay a contract. I've got loans that I've taken out from one of the in-game banks. If we look at the banking tab, you can come in here. I'll show you guys mine. I've taken loans out from a bank to be able to make auction purchases, buy land on auction, buy equipment on auction, or buy equipment from player dealers. So I got some extra capital, and that comes with the loan. And so you need, money to be able to pay for that. There's savings accounts, so you can earn some interest back if you've got some spare money sitting in your account. And so there's a lot of things to do on the web side of things. On the other side of things is your meta account. So you can see up here, I've got $17,000 in meta. And the meta account is for things like buying and selling on the global market. And so all of the warehouses and things that I've covered in previous videos. We also have factories and production coming soon. And then you've got things like the gaming center where you can play the lottery, you can bid on grid raffles, and then you also have the stocks and things like that, which I can't find. Stocks, investment center. There it is, where you can invest in stocks. And I think I've covered this in previous videos, but these are all activities that come out of the meta account. And why I caution players is you can move money between these accounts, but when it comes to moving to and from in-game, that's an action that requires the staff to actually log in and move your money from web to game or game to web, and that takes time. So that's one of those activities that could take 24 to 72 hours. So you really need to be thoughtful about where your money's at, how you're moving it around, especially if you're like me and you have loans. I've got to get enough money into my bank account to pay my loan or I'm going to have trouble. So I don't want to wait until the last day, because if it takes 72 hours to move my money, that's, 3 loan payments that I could have missed. The other big thing to think about or worry about is when you talk about moving money to and from meta. And so your meta account, where you can be pretty profitable doing things on the global market, or maybe you win big on the lottery, is you can only bring so much of that money back into the web, and thus in game once it gets into web. You can only bring so much back per year, and this is based on your total value. And when I say per year, I mean a game year, which is 12 days is approximately a game year, because we're playing 3-day seasons in real time. So you got to be really thoughtful about the fact that for me at my level, I can only bring 117K back from my meta account. So even if I make a lot of money over there, it's not instantly going to be available to me in game. It's going to take some time to bring that back year by year into the real game. For tip 6, I suggest spending some time to learn the gameplay changing mods that have been included with FSN. There's a number of mods that are on FSN. A lot of them have some impact on the game besides just being new equipment that you can play with. And the 3 that really come to mind are manual attach, seasons, and GPS. And the reason that these are important, especially manual attach, is it changes how you interact with equipment. If you haven't used manual attach before offline, I definitely recommend finding a video that explains how manual attach works. I'll include a couple of small clips on some of these mods because they can be a little bit quirky with how they work on the server in multiplayer. Seasons is a really big one. I recommend spending your time to learn how seasons works for FS19. Go to the wiki. I'll put the link to the seasons wiki in the description. Go read that wiki. It changes everything about Farming Simulator. It adds weather, the effects from weather. Like if it rains, the ground is wet. It changes the fact there's snow, there's animals are completely overhauled. They take different food. They react differently. Like there's so many game-changing mechanics from seasons that you need to really, really understand how seasons works. And I've seen a number of players that have not played with seasons before really struggling with playing FSN because there's just so many different nuances to the game with seasons that they're overwhelmed by seasons. They're overwhelmed by all the complexity with FSN. So especially if you're still pre-whitelist, spend some time, learn seasons, because it'll be helpful to you once you get into FSN. The last mod, and again, I'll try to include some little clips explaining some of these in more detail, is the GPS mod. And GPS is super, super useful. Because this is a mod that, in a game where you're doing all of the driving, there's no AI helpers on the servers, no follow me, no course play, nothing like that. You're going to be doing all the driving, and it's multiplayer. So there's some lag and things like that happen, from time to time. It's inevitable. GPS is going to help keep you driving straight through those lag spikes. It's going to help you be as efficient as possible when you're planting. Some players don't like using it. It detracts from the realism, especially if you're targeting older, smaller equipment. But me personally, I strongly recommend it. And, a lot of contracts that are put out there by farm managers will mandate the use of GPS because they don't want you to miss parts of the field. They don't want you to unnecessarily use up, spray or seed or what have you. And so, I recommend spending some time with these mods and really getting to learn them well. And I'll post a couple of clips here because there's some quirky things with manual attach and GPS that are best shown in-game. Manual attach. This is another cool mod, but it can be a bit quirky sometimes. If you're in a vehicle with something attached and you're going extremely slow, as I am here, you can see that I've got my cruise control set at 32 miles an hour, but I'm only going 14. The most likely cause for this is that you forgot to hook up your PTO and your hoses. You can also see other odd behavior, like the implement just not working properly. Even if the hoses and PTO appear to be attached, I've found a lot of odd behavior in FSN or multiplayer in general can be attributed to the manual attach mod just being kind of quirky. My recommendation is to come in and disconnect your PTO by tapping the Z key and disconnecting your hoses by holding Z down. Then reconnecting them. And once you get it back into your vehicle, generally I find that most wonky little issues are resolved just by doing that simple step. Another great mod is the guidance steering mod, or GPS for short. GPS can be a little quirky at times. If you get into a vehicle that won't move, or you're already moving and can't stop or turn, I find that if you toggle GPS off and on again, that this is going to resolve the issue. Last but not least, have fun. I tried to jump into FSN and do everything in day one. I got overwhelmed very quickly. It just takes a lot of time to try and do everything. I jumped to farm manager. I've got over 100 acres that I'm farming now, almost 150. And, it just takes a lot to manage that. And, that can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing, depending on how much free time you have. And, don't get burned out in your first few weeks. Don't get overwhelmed by the complexity and, just walk away from it. Take your time, go slow, have fun, find some people to play with, build some relationships. Hopefully you found some of these tips helpful. If there's other content you'd like to see related to the FarmSim network, go ahead and drop a comment below. We'll see you on the FSN. That's all for today. Ketter.